Big news, Oilers Penguins trade, Quinn Hughes to Minnesota, and Kevin Adams gone after 5.5 years in Buffalo. It's the Jarmo Kekalainen show. What is job 1, 2, and 3? Joining us now, longtime Ducks broadcaster. Duck Calls was an institution he was for 17 years. Back in Buffalo doing InsideHockey.com where he's writing. Joining us now, friend of the show, Josh Brewster is back. Josh, does Marty, do you see his plow in Buffalo? Do you see him doing his plow work? Welcome.
Yeah, it's quite a shock to my system with 30 years in Los Angeles and Anaheim. And yeah, it's a shocker. I'm still getting used to it. By the way, hello to Nate Thompson. He was always a fan favorite. People called in all the time. They love Nate Thompson. He was a great NHLer, and yeah, good to hear his voice.
Good. Well, he'll be asking you questions in just a moment. So where are we at big picture? Actually, maybe what's the reaction of Jarmo getting this job?
Well, I think that, folks are guarded here because they've been through so much. But I think that they're relieved that the club has moved on for reasons we'll talk about. I just think that the reaction is guarded, but I think that they're happy to hear that they've moved on. And, the club, look, I don't want to get excited about a Sabres team that has struggled as much as they have, but they have given Lindy what he wants like every other night, and that's not good enough, but they certainly have a young core. They also have a couple veterans, one they have to re-sign in Tuck. They do have a clue here. It's not all lost, and, we want the Sabres, look, by New Year's, it's a good barometer for where everybody is, and New Year's is staring us in the face. So I think in the next couple weeks, you'll know whether the Sabres can pull it together and compete.
Josh, hey buddy, good to hear from you. And I guess my question is what does that look like for Jarmo Kekalainen? Like, what is his biggest move or action he has to take to see where the Buffalo Sabres are at? Obviously, he has a job to do, and now we know how long it's been. We've talked about the past, and he talked about living in the now. But what does he have to do now to change this team?
Well, right at the moment, it's an interesting situation, Nate, because I look at the Sabres the way I look at believe it or not, they're in the same position that a team on the cusp of contention is in. They're a club desperately needing to get out of the cellar and into playoff contention right now, or else Jarmo's job number one right now is to stop the hemorrhaging. And what I mean by hemorrhaging is Eichel, gone. Reinhart, gone. Montour, gone. Cousins, Peterka, gone. You've got one after another, young, highly drafted prospects. And what happens, Nate, as you know, because you played and I didn't, is that when a guy gets into the league after 3-4 years or whatever, and no one is going anywhere, well, then he either asks out or he just doesn't re-sign, or it's the age of free agency. It's not 1981 here. They can move. So what I think job one right now, and we can talk about this because I've identified a constant that's happened over the last 14 years, but right now I would suggest that they need to find a way to get some veterans in there so that they can get some consistency, and that guys like, the younger guys don't say, get me out of here, or Alex Tuck doesn't say, get me out of here, which I guarantee you he holds all the cards. It's not as much about the money as it is, I think, as he wants to see if the club is going to go somewhere. So I think to stop the hemorrhaging right now is important. It can't be coming in and announcing that you have a 3 to 5 year plan. It's not going to work. There has to be measurable improvement with an eye toward the future.
What do you think Jarmo Kekalainen thinks about the goaltending?
Well, I think that I think they're gonna do away. Obviously, they've talked about doing away with the 3 goaltender thing. Ironically enough, the way I look at this is, it actually wasn't the worst idea to have a little competition, and maybe the goaltenders grind their teeth a little bit about how come there's 3 goalies here. I think the goaltending, I don't think the statistics are great, but statistics don't tell you when. And I've noticed a lot of nice saves, and I think that the goaltending's been kind of a positive around here. But they'll go down to 2, and then I think he'll see where he's at. With a club that has the troubles that Buffalo has, you never really know whether you have something more than you think you might have in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And just because his name doesn't come off the tongue with all the great goaltenders in the league, that doesn't mean that if the club doesn't do a few things right, that he might be a lot better than you think he is.
You guys have a guy with the same last name as me, Tage Thompson, and we see how good he is and what he's done. And, I think he should be probably a lock to be on Team USA. Just talk about the importance of him and how good he's been for the Buffalo Sabres.
Well, when I talk, and we're going to talk about veteran inspiration and leadership, and this is a guy who's getting into his mid to late 20s. One thing Tage Thompson does is he shoots that puck, and he is decisive. Aside from all the other things that he is, he's a big guy, but he's a very good skater, got great sense, but boy, shooting that puck. And a Sabres defenseman named John Van Boxmeer taught me many years ago when I was just starting out, about 25 years ago, when you move up in levels, and Nate, maybe you would agree with this, I don't know. When a player moves up in levels, one of the key questions is, can you make plays at the higher level? You might be making plays at the lower level, but when you move up to the higher level, are you making plays at the NHL level, or are you looking for somebody else to finish your plays? So when I look at a guy like Tage Thompson, I hope that other guys on the Sabres look at what he does. And there's other guys like Tuck, even the kid don't. He's so decisive, and you can see on a lot of nights that the Sabres have a little too much minor pro, cusp of the NHL guys who are looking for somebody else to finish. So if I was on a team with Tage Thompson, I would watch that because he does not mess around with that puck.
Yeah, well, there's this theory when you mentioned about guys going out of town, and do you believe that Tuck, because of his proximity where he grew up, is someone that will sign? And if he has a conversation with Jarmo, if he hasn't already, then do you make the move that you made with Peterka and everybody else? Because you got a guy that's like, he holds all the cards as you alluded to. What's your gut tell you about what he's going to do, Josh?
It's a story that's unfolding with a lot of moving parts. I think that it's great that he's from Syracuse and he likes Buffalo, but that's only going to go so far. The guy has a career to tend to. Who am I going to be? I've watched the club that I left has already won a cup, and where am I going to be in 5, 6, 7 years? So I think that if there is some kind of a locomotion here, if the skies open up and something happens and the Sabres really start, like the planets get in line for the Sabres and Jarmo can push them along, if they've got some locomotion, then he might be saying, you brought in this guy, we've improved, I think we're going somewhere, I'm willing to make a deal. But if it's the same old song and dance, I have to suspect he's going to say, open the door to free agency.
And with that, Josh, do you think that there's a world where Jarmo says, okay, I need to go out and get a couple veterans to supplement this youth that we have, and like we've talked about in the past, not change, but cultivate that culture, that standard that they have to live by while they're playing for the Buffalo Sabres?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Now, it's interesting, Nate. You talked about this earlier on the show a couple hours ago, and you hit the nail on that. I unearthed some numbers. I'm going to try to be very brief. I unearthed some numbers about a year ago. Some of the press picked it up, and here are the numbers. In the last 14 years that they have missed the playoffs, the Buffalo Sabres have always been one of, if not the youngest teams in the league. It has done them no good. Only 2 of the last 20 Cup winners in the NHL in the last 20 years have been amongst the bottom 10 youngest, and those are the 2010 Blackhawks and the 2013 Blackhawks. Everybody else is either in the top 20 of age, or 45% of them, 9 of the 20, are in the top 10 of age. So what I'm getting at is this. Before Nate joined the Ducks, I seem to remember, now these are some great Hall of Fame names. I don't expect you to pull in Hall of Famers, but when Brian Burke brought in Scott Niedermayer, brought back Tamu, brought in Pronger, and we had guys like Sean O'Donnell, Brad May, Burke really valued veterans. And I'm of the opinion, and you can tell me I'm full of it, but I'm of the opinion that youth is one of the most overrated things in hockey and experience is one of the most underrated things in hockey. And I believe it's important that accountability, just as an observer, I'm not a player, but what I've observed, I think that accountability has to happen amongst the players. When you skate back to the bench and you see a veteran who's been in the league for 700-800 games, he's 33 years old, whatever it is, and he's playing a certain way every night, you know, it's got to have an impact on the younger players. You look at the contenders who have brought in Corey Perry, the Panthers have brought in Brad Marchand. I could just go down the list. I like experience if I need consistency. And being one of the youngest teams has done them absolutely no good. And I think that it is absolutely imperative right now. And I want to finish with this. The Sabres have more first-round draft choices than any other organization in hockey, in all up and down the organization. It is time to sell off some draft picks. You don't need as many draft picks. Take a look at the Vegas Golden Knights. They've used 4 draft picks in each of the last 3 drafts. They're a contender. They're always ready to make a play for something big. Bring in veterans. Look at all the veterans they brought in. And finally, if you look at the Ducks right now, look what Verbeek's brought in. He's brought in about 4,600 games worth of experience in Killorn and Gudas and Kreider, guys like that. He's brought in about 4,600 games of experience. And that is, to me, as much of a story as all the young guys who are producing. So that's my speech about that. And I think it is absolutely time for the Sabres to get a lot older.